Welcome back to the Focus Podcast. Today we have Mark Schellenbach with Set My Sight on the show. Thanks for coming on the show, Mark.
Thanks for having me, Mario. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. Long overdue. Of all places, we met at the gym.
Yes, sir. That's
And
right.
so if you're out there and you're working out somewhere, just strike up a conversation with somebody. You have no idea where it can lead.
100%. I've actually gotten several good contacts and made some really, really solid relationships with guys at that gym.
Yeah.
So I'm with you on that 100%, man.
Yes.
It's like finding like minded people. You never know who you're going to run into. So, yeah, expand that network for sure.
Absolutely. And yeah, it was really cool because I was like, "Oh, I do video." And you're like, "Oh my gosh, my clients could use that." I'm like, "Well, what do you do?" You're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
we're in the web maintenance space." And so we were talking a little bit, before the show, kind of the distinction between web maintenance, and web, kind of hosting and all those different pieces. So I know a lot of people, they know they need to have a website, they have it designed, but they sometimes don't understand there's an ongoing uh, type of service that needs to be happening. So tell us, what are some of the mistakes that you're seeing that people make when they try to manage their own website?
For sure. So, I mean, there's a lot, obviously. So I
Yeah.
could be here for hours, but I would say so. One distinction that I'll make is we specifically operate in the WordPress website space, right?
Right.
And
Okay.
so with WordPress, so for those who don't know, WordPress is a platform, a web development platform that allows you to essentially build websites, right? And WordPress happens to be the most popular development platform in the world. It actually powers like 43% of the internet right now.
Well.
So it's huge. So that's our area of expertise for a reason, obviously. And so the reason why that platform became so popular is because it was open source. It started as an open source project, meaning you can take the software and use it however you want. You can do whatever you want with it, and it's 100% free. So because they started with that model, it became unbelievably popular and it was very solid, right? It was a solid piece of software. So that meant that a small business owner with a shoestring budget could grab that software, go get a budget host, install it on their hosting server, and build a website basically, right?
Right.
And the benefit too with using an open source software like WordPress is if you're not happy with your host, you can move, right? You can download and take all of your web files to another hosting environment and it's still your site. That's kind of in contrast to a lot of the other big players in the game now, the Wixes and Squarespaces and Shopify's, where those are like more closed source environments where if you cancel your subscription with them, everything goes away, right?
Right.
And so with WordPress, because you are the owner of the software technically, and you are the one who is putting that software on your own host, HostGator, Bluehost, something like that, you are also the one who is responsible for maintaining that software. And so that's the biggest disconnect that I think business owners have when they start with a WordPress website. WordPress is wonderful, it's an incredible piece of software, but you have to have some degree of ownership over it if you want to make sure that it's healthy, successful, no issues, that kind of stuff, right?
Right.
And so what most people do is they buy a website design from a designer and then they take the website files and they put them on the host for the client and that's it, right? They kind of that's it, dust your hands off, you're good to go. And you got a website running, rock and roll, right? Now you just pay your hosting cost and you're fine. It's like 10-20 bucks a month, no big deal. The issue is that over time, if you're not maintaining the software, the WordPress software specifically, those components that make WordPress work, the add-ons and plugins, the PHP version that's running on your host, those all become outdated, right?
Okay.
And so if you don't update those, your site becomes vulnerable, and hackers, malicious people with malicious intent, love to find websites that are vulnerable that they can exploit and inject malicious code into and redirect your website to whatever website they want to redirect it to,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so
Mm-hmm.
WordPress is a prime target for security breaches, vulnerabilities, and malicious attacks because people don't update their software. So it's pretty simple. If you have a WordPress site, make sure you log in at least once a month, check that little red button to see if there's any updates, and make sure you push those updates through. And That helps, right? That's a big help. But on the other side of the coin is as well with WordPress is that, and I hope I'm not getting too technical or into the weeds here, but when you're running a site that's on WordPress, you also have these other components called plugins, right? And
Yes.
these extend the functionality of your site. So if you want to have, let's say, a photo gallery, right, or a video gallery that integrates with YouTube, or even just a Instagram feed that shows up on your site, all of those things are powered by plugins. And plugins are built by independent developers. And those independent developers are responsible for maintaining their own code base. And there's no guarantee that the developer of that Instagram plugin has his code so it's compatible with the developer of that video gallery plugin. And you're running both on your site at the same time. So
Ah,
if you go to update those pieces of software and there's a compatibility error, that can break your site and take your site down, right? And so, in that respect, you also want to make sure you have some contingency plan in place to prevent that from happening. Or when it does happen, you have something that you can do to restore back, right?
yes.
And so, there's a lot of hosting environments now that are set up specifically for WordPress. If you just do a Google search for WordPress optimized hosting, they have those contingencies built in, which is really great.
Yes.
So that if, like, let's say you try and update your plugins, you're trying to be good, you're trying to maintain your software, you hit that update button and the site goes down, critical error, site crashes, you can actually roll back to a restored backup that's available in your hosting environment, which is great. So make sure you have a contingency plan in place. Make sure that you have an eye on your WordPress updates. Keep your WordPress up to date as much as you can. That gets you, that fixes a lot of problems for a lot of business owners. The unfortunate reality, though, is most business owners don't know about this, and most business owners aren't on a WordPress optimized hosting environment. They're using something like a Bluehost or a HostGator or a GoDaddy, and they're
Yeah.
paying for that kind of big box budget hosting environment. And those environments are not really going to be conducive to allowing your WordPress website to stay healthy, updated with a contingency plan. So that's a big thing that we see a lot when customers come to us is they just didn't have those things in place. And there's some things that you can do to make sure your site stays healthy, like I just said. So
No, and that's you touched on a lot there, and a lot of good takeaways for me are that we, as the business owner, may think that we have time to do this initially, and then we're busy running our business, or
yes,
we're in meetings, and a lot of people, they're trying to be sales, marketing, their own web department. What I have found is it frees me up to not only my time, but hand it over to an expert. Very similar to someone mowing my yard. Yes, I know how to mow my yard,
right,
but when you see three dudes pop out of a truck and go zip zip zip,
exactly.
and they do it better than I would, it's like, why not invest in it to make sure it's actually getting taken
Oh,
care of?
100%. I've got the world's most tiniest lawn, and it takes me easily 2 hours to get through the whole thing. And it's
Yeah,
just like, how, where 2 hours just go every Saturday,
yeah.
right? Like you said, let's just, get somebody to come and do it and they'll do it right. They have the tools. I don't have to invest in more tools. And I know it's going to get done consistently. Same exact thing, right? Same
Yes.
exact thing. And when it comes to web maintenance, like concept is exactly the same. Most business owners have someone they know or they themselves have some degree of technical ability to get into the site to do these types of things. They could go watch a YouTube video,
Right.
like the 1, 2, 3 to WordPress maintenance services. I can figure it out. But the reality is like that's going to be a lot of time you have to spend educating yourself. That's going to be a lot of time you have to spend figuring out what to do when something goes wrong. And so having a maintenance service just kind of there, taking care of those things for you in the background, such a like a massive time saver.
And
Absolutely.
and you have to do that because it's the lifeline a lot of for your business, for the lead flow. A lot of businesses don't even have a brick and mortar nowadays. They
Right.
have the website. That's the moneymaker. So if that's down, that's catastrophic. So
Absolutely.
so why not, make sure that that's up to date? Because again, a lot of times people want to just take on everything. And I know firsthand that your service is valuable. Priscilla Moore, thank
Oh,
you again
yeah.
for sending her our way for the video shoot. Shout out
Absolutely.
Priscilla with Delighted to Doula.
Shout out Princilla.
Pri-
What's up?
She's amazing.
Yep.
But she was raving about you, like going on and on. So it was like, I know they've got something special going on over there, and it's something that business owners they value. I
Yeah.
mean, it was the biggest endorsement I've heard in a long time, right? And I'm like, man, these guys are over there doing doing some great things.
Great.
And so it's definitely a valuable service that I would recommend people do just so they don't forget.
Yeah.
Because you get in the weeds of your business, you cannot afford to have your website be vulnerable. So I really appreciate you touching on those things. So now talking to the business owner that's listening to this, they're like, yeah, you know what? Maybe it is time for me to like not try to keep up with all these tasks. What are you seeing as kind of a good some signs that people may want to say, okay, it's time to hand over the keys
Mm.
to a web maintenance, web management type company like yours?
Yeah. So I feel like in most cases for the business owner, it's pretty intuitive. There's
Hmm.
usually some type of something happens where the light bulb goes on, right? And so typically I'll find it in one of two cases. It's usually either there's a to-do list of things we want to do on the website, right? As a business owner, I want to do X, Y, Z. And yeah, I'm gonna put it on my to-do list and I'm gonna get to it tomorrow. I'm gonna get to it next week.
Hmm.
I'm gonna get to it this month. I'm gonna get to it next month. I'm gonna get to it in quarter two, right? And now it's quarter three. Well, this year before the year ends, I'm gonna get those things done,
Yep.
right? And eventually there's a point where they go, okay, obviously, like I'm trying to run my business. I'm wearing 17 different hats. If I can just send an email to someone who can do all of things for me and then have it be done, it'll be worth it, right? And so
Yes.
that's a big portion of what we see people coming to us and companies like us, just to be the person to handle those things that are on the to-do list. And they're usually simple things, right?
Yeah.
Update a bio, change a picture, add a new page. Here's a new service that we have. We have to like promote this new service and we haven't added it to our website yet, right?
Yeah.
That's a huge issue. And so, and it could be issues like our contact forms aren't working, right? Somebody tried to contact us or I never got the lead. So that's a big issue too. So just being able to have someone to send these tasks to and say, can you guys just do this stuff?
Right.
That's a huge one, right? And the second one is we kind of talked a little bit about it before, but it's kind of more on the security and maintenance side, right?
Hmm.
In the WordPress space and in other spaces too, not just WordPress, but I would say mostly WordPress. A client, they had a catastrophic moment where their site went down during a very important time,
Hmm.
right? Like we see this a lot during Black Friday in your e-commerce business, right? So things like that where my site is down, I don't know why, or my site's been hacked and I can't fix it.
Right.
Those are the things that kind of push people to the point where they say, okay, I think I need, a developer, a web guy, right? That's often what we refer to as the web guy, right?
Yeah.
To handle all this stuff for me, somebody who knows their stuff where I don't have to worry about this stuff again. And so usually the business owners will have that kind of intuition where something's happening in the business where they realize, okay, it's going to be time for me to have someone available on call to do these types of things for me so I can just focus on my business.
No, that makes a ton of sense. And I think, we're talking to some very similar clients that valued their time,
Hmm.
because they probably could do this, but very similar to bringing on a virtual assistant to say, "Hey, do I really need to be in my email inbox? Do I really need to be, handwriting this, whatever,
Hmm.
right?" And so finding ways to free up your time to be able to focus on high level, high income generating tasks
Hmm.
are going to be very important. One thing that you did touch on, or we didn't touch on before, but kind of talk to us about your ideal like client profile. Like what size businesses? What's kind of the sweet spot for you guys? Is it?
Yeah.
I'm sure it's industry agnostic a little bit, but kind
Yeah.
of give me the picture of just that ideal client for you guys.
Absolutely. So our ideal client, I think, is someone who has a business that's been in operation for a little bit of time, right? It's not a brand new startup because typically with startups, it can be it can be hit or miss, and it's just hard to know. Like a lot of times, they don't really have a clear mission or vision of what they're trying to do.
Okay.
If we work with a company that's been, hey, it's our fifth year in business, sixth year in business, 20-year in business, right? Like, okay, these guys are solid. We know
Yeah.
that we're going to be able to help them. They're established, right? This is someone that we know that our services are going to be valuable to,
Right.
and that's like really the key is finding our client profile is more like finding the client where we know our services are of value to them, right?
That's good.
And so we typically find that, yeah, established businesses, businesses that either are all e-commerce or partially e-commerce are very, they require some additional assistance, and so our services can be very valuable to those types of clients. And then what we find is, uh, when there's a business and there's a lot of moving parts to the business and there's not a lot of time, right?
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of value to hiring a full-time developer,
Yes.
right? That's kind of our super sweet spot where it's like, our website's super important. It generates our leads for us. We need to have the website up and running. It needs to be healthy. There can't be any problems. It needs to be accurate. It needs to be updated timely. Uh, but I'm not about to spend $85,000 a year in bringing in a full-time dev,
Right.
right? And so we just want to have someone on call where we can send requests to and receive reports from, making sure that our site's rocking and rolling.
No, that helps, and I'm sure as people are listening, either they're nodding their head and going, "Okay, that's us,"
Yeah.
or they know of businesses that would be going through those issues. So, we talked about a little bit about this before the show too. Yeah, there's web design firms, there's support firms. I mean, I'm in the marketing space and video, and I'm still just like the web guy, right?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
and so, kind of tell us what separates you from other support firms or just web design in general? Because again, out there in business land, I would imagine people are just like, oh yeah, just find the web designer to like do all this stuff. They don't understand there's like web design and then web maintenance or web management. So what are some things you think separate you guys from other web companies out there?
Yeah, that's a good distinction. So it is hard for a lot of business owners. If you take like your average kind of business owner profile, think like busy lawyer or someone like that, right? They don't really understand the difference between a website management company or website design company, a digital marketing company, digital media company, hosting company,
Hmm.
domain registrar. These are all the same thing to them, right? And so it is hard to create that distinction. But and they are all related, right? So we have to have a handle on all of those types of parts of the industry in order to successfully do our job. But the way that we kind of operate is from kind of a jack of all trades is a master of none,
Hmm.
in so to speak, right? And so there's a lot of agencies out there that are all in ones,
Yep.
and they'll give you everything under the sun, right? But those are, and they can be great, right? So I'm not going to talk, I'm not going to talk trash on agencies because there's a lot of really quality, competent agencies out there. But there's a lot of agencies that, yeah, if you were to ask them honestly, they'd say, well, they do one or two things really well, and then they kind of subcontract out the other things, or they do the other things, but they try not to sell them because they're not as good at those other things, right? And so it's hard for agencies to be honest about that, though, because they have to compete, and everyone else is selling everything, right? And so, our the way we operate is just from the perspective of we do one thing and we do it really, really well, right? And so we basically tell our clients that we're just your digital lifeline, right?
Yep.
We're basically your consultant. We're in that web consultant role, because if you need us to make some modifications to your site, yeah, we'll do all that stuff for you, right? If you want us to keep your site healthy and running, we'll do all that stuff for you as well. But the big value comes from the consultation part of what we offer, right?
Yeah.
So we offer our clients a dedicated website manager and direct phone line access to us and our team, which a lot of companies in our space do not. And so, if you were to operate, or if you were to engage another web management company, typically it's just going to be through a support ticket system, and that's all you get. But with us, we provide that personalized support because we know how important it is for our clients to know who it is they're talking to, and
Right.
to know that when they send something to us, it's going to get done, and it's going to get done correctly. And so for us, the consultancy role, I think, is the thing that really makes us different, right? Because I'm not an SEO, right? I know a lot about SEO. I started in SEO out of college. I worked for an SEO company for a long time. We used to do SEO a long time ago, so I know a lot about it. But I'm not going to tell my client, "Oh yeah, we're going to do your SEO for you,"
Right.
right? But if they have a question for me about, "Hey, have you heard of this firm? What do you think about link building in 2025? What are your thoughts about having a small mini site for a specific service in a specific location and having that feed into my main website so I can get more SEO dominance?" I have opinions on that are, professional opinions
Yeah.
that are not tied to a specific agency or tied to my performance with that client, right? I can be honest with them and give them my honest feedback based on my experience, right? So I
Yeah.
think that part of it is invaluable for the client because I'm not trying to upsell them on some other service,
Right.
right? I can actually give them 3 or 4 partners in the space where I can say these guys are amazing. Contact these guys. I can give you solid referrals, right?
Yeah.
And so I think from that perspective, what we do at Set My Site, it just gives them that additional level of support, that additional layer of personalized support.
Yeah.
And sometimes people ask me, "Hey, what do you do?" "Oh, we're a WordPress management company." They say, "Okay, yeah, so you're a tech guy. You're in the tech space, right?" And I'm like, "Well, kind of, but
Yeah.
the thing that we're actually selling is support. We're a customer support company,
Right.
is what we actually are, right?" And so as long as we keep that focus, I think that's what shows with our customers.
That is so refreshing to hear, Mark. And if there's so much that you just said that just gives me goosebumps in a good way because I know for a fact that businesses want to deal with experts now.
Right.
And again, just like you said, nothing against the do it all shop because we run into that as well. People that say that they do social and SEO and video and all the things, but they're really good at like one thing.
Right.
And that's what we decided to do is let's go all in on video production because it'd be easy to offer other services, but like we're really passionate and good at video. So to see you guys take the same approach and very similar to Austin, shout out to Austin with Purposeful Productions who's producing this podcast
Shout
for
out
us
to
right now.
Austin.
They he focuses on podcast production. Like that's what he does. And so when people come to him for a video, he'll contact me. When people come to me for web services, and it's funny you mentioned about the IT um, distinction because I met with an IT guy and he said website designers and like web guys like yourself are great referral partners
Mhm.
because people just assume like, oh, you're in IT, you work on the computer, so just like do the website too. And I'm
100%.
sure that the flip comes from you guys like, "Oh, yeah, don't you guys do, like, cybersecurity and stuff?"
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is one of those things that you just come to terms with in this space. It's like
Yeah.
most of the business owners they have no clue of the distinctions between the different types of services. And that's totally understandable.
Right.
I absolutely get that. And
Yes.
so but it is that's why it's great to have referral partners though in the
Yes.
space as well, because when you do get that question inevitably, um, you know, I want to be able to refer out to someone who I know is competent, right?
Yes.
So that's really, really important to me. And so when you ask me for a hosting company, I have one for you, right? When
Right.
you ask me for a media company, I've got one. When you ask
Right.
me for an SEO company, I've got a couple of those too. So so yeah, that I think is super important.
And it really it serves the customer best,
Right.
in my opinion, because again, shout out to the firms out there doing a lot of things well,
Yep.
right? But if you can really focus on one thing, then you can do an incredible job for them. And like you said, then you have that referral network to be able to say, and I think it gives you a lot of credibility to say, we'd love to take this on, but they're going to do a much better job at
Exactly.
this because people ask
Exactly.
us all the time too for like podcast recording.
Hmm.
They just assume we have cameras and whatnot. I'm like, we'd love to, but that's not our jam.
Right.
Call Austin.
Yep.
And so same with you guys. Even with us with video, they're like, oh yeah, you guys, I'm sure you do websites,
Right.
and we're we
Absolutely.
we do not.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, this has been fruitful. I've definitely learned a lot, and I definitely need to go back into my website when I get back and make sure that my updates are good.
Everyone says that when I talk to
I
them.
know. Like, oh, make sure I'm clean for sure.
Yes, sir.
So if someone's out there listening, they're like, "Yep, that's me. I've been putting this off too long." Talk to them about what the next steps would be and how to contact
Yeah.
you guys.
Well, yeah. You guys can always reach us. Setmysite.com. That's the website. If you'll see the little chat bubble that pops up there. You can reach us there. You'll probably get me, or you'll get Billy or one of our guys there. Or you can just hit us up on the contact form. We're always standing by and respond to leads as quickly as possible. But find us on setmysite.com. Contact us. My name is Mark Schellenbach. Search me up on Google. We're here to help, man. Even if you just have a question, trying to figure out which direction to go. Should I use WordPress? Should I use Shopify? Let me know. We're happy to assist.
Incredible, man. Well, I'm so glad you were able to make it on. One of the things you touched on too that I want to hit, I just love the fact that you guys are real guys behind the screen because
Yes,
you just
sir.
never know what you're going to get with some management firms. So yeah, I see this guy all the time at Lifetime. He's a real guy getting it in,
Trying.
getting his gains. So
Yes,
I
sir.
love it.
Trying to get those gains, bro.
Yes, yes. Really appreciate you coming on the show.
Yes, sir.
I know our audience is going to be better for it. Thank you all so much on YouTube for tuning in. Until next time, if you need a professional video, of course, we'd love to help. My name is Mario Wilson with 12 Media Group, where we put your brand in focus.